We'll call the meeting to order. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Can I do roll call first, please? Trustee Rogers? Present. Trustee Reinders? Present. Trustee Pazmino?
Present.
Trustee Consolino? Present. Trustee Fialco?
Present.
Trustee Laha?
I'm here.
And Mayor Yukich.
Reports and communications from mayor and other officers.
We would go to amendments, right?
Do you have any amendments?
I do. I would like to have number 8 removed from the consent agenda and move it down into legislation and action items. At the top would be okay.
You could just move it down. Anything else, man?
No, sir.
So we'll start around with the trustees. Jennifer, you're going to have honors.
You want me to start? Okay. The only thing I wanted to report on tonight was to apologize again for what happened during our last meeting. I wanted to tell everyone that when the village first incorporated, we adopted Robert's Rules of Order. And when looking at our own ordinances that says adoption of Robert's Rules of Order, I want to take the time to express to everybody on the board that I think we could have behaved better. I think we could have adhered better to the rules of Robert's Rules of Order. Instead of going into detail about certain things that I thought applied, I'd rather just go with the Robert's Rules of Order tips and reminders. Follow the agenda to keep the group moving towards its goals. Let the group do its own work. Don't overcommand. Control the flow of the meeting by recognizing members who ask to speak. Let all members speak once before allowing anyone to speak a second time. And this includes no interruptions. When discussions get off track, gently guide the group back to the agenda. Model courtesy and respect and insist that the others do the same. Help to develop the board's skills in parliamentary procedure by properly using motions and points of order. Give each speaker your undivided attention. Keep an emotional pulse on these discussions and allow a consensus to have the final authority over the group. And that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Trustee Laha?
Hi, okay. I am reporting tonight for the Ability Awareness Committee. I just wanted to say a couple of things. For one, the deadline for the Homer Township Highway Commissioner Special Needs Grant application and nominations has been extended to February 28th. If you need any information, you can go to the village website or contact myself or Brent Porfilio from the Homer Township for any questions. Also, the committee is really excited to be hosting its first roundtable discussion. The topic is Understanding Your Child's IEP, which is going to take place on January 27th. We have a really great lineup of speakers with a lot of experience in the special education field, and we're really looking forward to this opportunity for parents, caretakers, and educators to all come together and have a great conversation about what an IEP is, what to expect in IEP meetings, and how to effectively advocate for your children's needs. And this is an open event here at the Village Hall, and tomorrow we will be sharing a registration link. So please reach out to me or anyone on the committee if you have any questions. Last, I'd like to thank students from 33C District 92, and Girl Scout Troop 75627 for the beautiful holiday cards that they made that the Ability Awareness Committee passed out to our seniors in our area. I wanted to especially thank committee member Christina Knightsky-Troike for doing all the legwork, and I just want to let everybody know that I'm sure it put a lot of smiles on people's faces, and I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next would be Trustee Rogers.
During the month of November, Clerk Knightsky-Troike and myself were invited to attend a luncheon with our local American Legion Post 211, the Makawolovari Post, and it was very well attended. Met a lot of new people. After the luncheon, we had the opportunity to sit down with many of the seniors that live in Marion Village, and one of the concerns that they had was the lack of movement on the memory care facility that was approved at the board level, and we're wondering if the village could maybe circle back with those developers or in Marion Village to see what the holdup was. I assured them that it was, as far as my concern, nothing at the board level, but so I'm not really sure what all we can do on that, so they did ask to do that. Additionally, during that meeting, we spoke with Clerk Knightsky and myself spoke with several of the American Legion vets and members about working on a project for Memorial Day. They have a lot of really good ideas, so we'll be attending some of their monthly meetings to get working on that project, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. The Trustee Pazmino.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting for the Environment Committee, we welcomed our new committee member, Karina Cirillo. She was very well received, and she proved to be a fantastic addition to our committee. Next, the committee spoke about possible tree ordinance revisions, which will be presented to the board in a workshop possibly next month. Our committee did pass to recommend to this board an amendment amending section 220-839 B1 and B2 of the zoning ordinance, which would allow chickens and bees on lot size, not zoning. So it's going to change the way we measure that out. This should go in front of the board as early as next month for discussion and ultimately a vote. We also brought up the 2022 event calendar, which we all have on our economic committee, our environmental committee activities, which had basically the same activities as last year, and this year we were discussing possibly adding a few more activities for the 2022 calendar. All of this is being discussed, so stay tuned for that. Next, we also discussed community solar, which is an alternative to ComEd for power, and the marketing campaign that the EC would like to engage in for awareness. Our committee member, Andrew Pinelli, is spearheading the effort, and we look forward to bringing this to the board for more awareness and more support. Lastly, we are proud to announce our first step discussions to join our efforts and activities with the Homer Glen Junior Women's Club. We had a very nice visit from the chair of their Environment Committee, Fran Pevelier, if I said that right. And we immediately started coming up with a lot of different ideas, and I look very much forward for this new partnership. And sir, that's all I have today.
Thank you. Trustee Renders.
Good evening, everybody. With the holidays, the Parks Committee and the CED Committee both were canceled. But on the agenda tonight, you're going to find an item for the soccer fields in Heritage Park. And also, we will be talking about some events that will be coming. So I don't want to really discuss those now, and I will leave those for discussion for the board at a later time. And that's my report.
Thank you. Trustee Pinelli.
All right, reporting for the fest. We came up with the budget for the fest, and that's on legislative and action items under H3s. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. But in the meantime, we brought in 3 new members and welcomed Mark Gowron, Mike Carlson, and John Walters to the fest committee. And at the same time, as the ebb and flow of anything that you deal with in life, whether it be your neighborhood or a job or even a committee. We did have 3 members that have spent a long time who have decided to move on. And I'd like to thank them for their years and years of service that they provided to the community for the fest. And those names are Chris Lucasius, Todd Fonfera, and Dave Bricker. Thank you guys for all your commitment to the community for many, many years. And I wish them well. That is my report, sir.
Okay, next would be me. I agree with what Trustee Consolino has said. We need to go by Robert's rules. Nobody can hear if everyone's talking over each other. And there should be no cutting in, or if someone's up there talking, and they have to be able to have their piece said. It's important that everyone has it. And last weekend, or 2 weeks ago, that's not how it worked. It's pretty bad. Right now, our residents need to hear what we have to say, how we're doing it, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. I mean, a lot of them call me on the phone, ask me a lot of questions, some that have something to do with the village, some that just have to do with their personal life. I take the time to talk to anyone that calls me because the residents want it, and they don't want to be confused. They want to know what direction they're going in. So, as of today, with the Robert's rules on it, when someone wants to talk, all you got to do is put a hand up, and I'll try and no one just start talking where it never ends. And sometimes it's like scripted, because as soon as one person says one thing, the other one's in it right away. You got to let everyone see what's going on and then talk to them. So if we can do it that way, I think it would make these meetings a lot more productive and a lot more fun. So with that, we'll go into village clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple things, just a reminder, when you are speaking, to make sure that you speak into the microphone and clearly, so for the recordings, we can, have that recorded. Trustee Consolino, thank you for your report. I think that's great. I think it's important that what you said, that people understand and heard what you had to say. Trustee Rogers, you had mentioned Memorial Day. Yes, we did meet with some veterans, and I think it's very important that if the event that they had mentioned that they would like to do, I think it would be important, and I think it would be a first step in the right direction if all of the trustees would work together on that, and all of us put our efforts into it. And if you guys want to bring your committees in, I think it would be great. I think it would be great for the public to see all of us helping the veterans in our own community. Trustee Pazmino, I did meet with the women from the Junior Women's Club, and they were very excited. They were very enthusiastic about going to your meetings. They're going to attend them regularly, and they are very, very excited to do the projects that you guys had discussed. I know there were some things involving youth and all that other fun stuff, so they're very excited about that. I was hoping that my report can be either added to new business or old business as it's discussion regarding the business licenses. Just to give you a quick rundown, I'm looking for what you guys would like me to do and how would you like me to proceed. We have 521 businesses in Homer Glen. Currently, right now, we still have 190 that are unpaid. What we've done in the past, prior to my clerk term and when I became clerk, things have changed, and in 2020, we didn't have business registration fees. And I know that we just said that we do want businesses to pay again. I guess my question is, I would like to know how you'd like me to move forward with the late fees and then after that. So if we could, I'm not sure if I can add anything to new business or old business, but if we can, I think it's important that we discuss that process so I can know how to proceed. Or you guys can email me how you want me to proceed, whatever you guys feel is best.
Okay. Any comments on it? Or
You want to bring that back under new business?
If one of you wouldn't mind adding it to new business, that would be great.
Okay. All right, next would be village attorney.
No reports, sir.
Next would be public safety officials. Next would be interim village manager.
No report.
Next would be public comment. There is a 3-minute time limit, so if you could please, let's see if we can get these answered for you. Sherry Kozolaha. Did you want to?
On the list in case I need to answer.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Mala Rahani.
This is regarding the development from Glen Walk Estates.
Okay, you can, when that comes up, we'll call you up to the podium. You're welcome. Craig Shoppy.
Good evening, Mayor Yukich and Village Trustees. My name is Craig Shoppy. I'm the Superintendent of Homer 33C. Thank you for this opportunity to address all of you regarding the proposed development in our community. The district is very appreciative of the open communication that we've had with the village administration over the past few years. Janie, Melissa, Matt have always been very inclusive in their planning and offering to meet with my team and wanting to keep us informed of potential residential developments and commercial developments in the area. That open communication has provided us with critical information to improve our student enrollment models, and which enable us to strategically plan for future enrollment growth. I would like to thank the village administration for all of your help and support. I've been very fortunate to grow up in this community and spend the majority of my career working in Homer Glen. Believe it or not, I remember when Parker Road was still a gravel road, so I've been very excited about all the updates and improvements that have happened in Homer Glen over the last 30 years. As a superintendent, I'm here to make all of you aware that the district is facing overcrowding issues. We have recently partnered with the Lockport High School in hiring a demographer to complete a long-term enrollment projection for our corresponding districts. As a result, we are currently investigating options to construct additional classrooms at our Hadley Middle School, along with our Homer Junior High. And we're also considering moving to a grade center model to address overcrowding issues at the elementary buildings as well. Our goal to address overcrowding is to, without going to our community to ask for a referendum to build a new building. The demographer's study outlines growth patterns for the area, and fortunately we feel we're able to keep up with the projections within our own budgets. However, this anticipated growth trend is based on the village's current parameters for new construction in the area. I would respectfully request that the village take this into consideration and maintain a stable environment for growth. The district would request that the village not change zoning codes or give zoning exceptions to builders that would allow them to greatly increase new home development. We would greatly support any efforts to bring in more commercial development along the way. Thank you for taking the time to understand the challenges that the district faces, and I appreciate the village continuing to work with the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be Steve Jones.
He's here to talk about the soccer.
That's fine. That's fine. Bob McBride.
Good evening, Mayor Yukich and all trustees. Thanks for your service. My name is Bob McBride, and I serve as the superintendent of Lockport Township High School District 205. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about the proposed development that my colleague in Homer 33C just spoke about as well. I'd like to express our Board of Education would like to thank you just for the partnership that we have had. Melissa, Janie, and Matt have been extraordinary, just sharing information with us keeping us updated just with consistent communication. And it's helped us tremendously just in terms of our long-term planning that we have to do as a high school district, and it's really provided a strong intergovernmental relationship. As you can imagine, Lockport Township High School has a dual interest in this particular project. Of course, we're thinking about additional students that might reside in this development needing both public education and then transportation. As many of you know right now, most important person in a district is a bus driver these days, but transportation as important as public education. We also realize that this development would be adjacent to a large piece of property that we currently own in Homer Glen, so it has special interest to us. So I'd like to just share three thoughts. The first is we support this development if it is in the interests of Homer Glen's growth and development as a community. Our student population projections for us as a facility indicate that our high school district could support any additional high school age students that would reside in this community. So we'd be able to educate them and transport them. Reviewing the proposed development as it is right now, we have noticed the plan to extend a public road into and possibly across the land that we own adjacent to the development, impacting any future development that we might have of the property and that we might plan or implement with community support. We would like to know just more about this road, its size, and how it might influence our future development of any school facilities at that site. And then finally, the property that we own adjacent to this development was purchased for the purpose someday of creating some type of school facility. What that facility would be or how it would serve our community is not clear. However, homeowners close to the boundary with that property should be aware that a school facility someday could be in their very backyard. As mentioned by Craig, we are partnering with Homer 33C to analyze future trends in enrollment and housing. Our Board of Education supports solutions that this village board feel are good for Homer Glen and address the concerns of Homer 33C. We recognize that elementary and middle school education is really the foundation of what we do at the high school. They send to us their very best students, and we can't be a high school without them. So it's a very important relationship. We know that striking a balance of commercial and residential development is a challenging job, so we are ready to support you in that really hard work. So thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Next would be Nanette Anderson.
I'm also with the library.
Okay. One I want to go back to, Malariani, is there something you wanted to say about what's coming up before, what is coming before the board? Do you have any questions?
Well, I wanted to express my opinion about the development that's coming up.
Come on up here.
Sure.
This way you get a chance to speak.
Wonderful.
Okay, well, good evening, one and all, and very happy and blessed New Year to everyone. My wife and I moved into the Glenview Walk Estate subdivision about 3 years ago. We both just recently retired. We're in our late 60s. And we were looking for a place to enjoy our retirement, our final years. And we searched for a couple of years. And Homer Glen, and specifically the Glenview Walk Estate subdivision, was most attractive to us because of its wide open spaces, its the beauty of its natural environment. So that's the criterion that we had, and that's the decision we made. And we wanted to make sure that it stays that way. So we did some research, and even your website says that you are committed to maintaining the character of Homer Glen. Specifically, the open space comment was there. So we rest assured that it's going to stay that way for many years to come. So we, my wife and I know many residents in that subdivision strongly oppose any changes to that, and building a development near us is an issue for us. We are surrounded on 3 sides of our subdivision with farms. I mean, it's beautiful. That's one reason. There's a bunch of other reasons, but the second thing is more financial. you know, for retirement, we depend on the equity of our home. And if they're building a development where the value of the homes, the townhomes, is 1/3 to 1/2 the value of our homes, this almost guarantees that any market analysis of our home moving forward is going to show a great reduction in the value of our homes. And we just cannot accept that. It doesn't make sense. So for those couple of reasons and a whole bunch of other reasons that were enumerated last time at this board meeting here, we strongly oppose the building of this development just west of the Glenview Walk Estates subdivision. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for all you do, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Okay, that's public comment. Next would be the consent agenda. So we have consider for approval the accounts payable of the period of December 10th, 2021 through January 13th, 2022 in the amount of $605,580.02. 2, consider an approval payment of the Village of Homer Glen's November legal bills to Mahoney, Silverman and Cross, LLC in the amount of $3,391.25. Number 3, consider for approval payment of the Village of Homer Glen's November legal bills from legislative attorney firm Odelson, Stewart, Murphy, Frazier, and McGrath in the amount of $4,856.25. And number 4, consider for approval payment of pay estimate number 3 from PT Farrow Construction Company for the 2021 road resurfacing program in the amount of $72,914.44. Number 5, consider for approval the reduction of a warranty bond for the Pet Supplies Plus development at the southwest corner of 143rd Street and Bell Road. 6, consider for approval a 100% fee waiver for the Homer Township Road District for the subject property located at 14500 West 151st Street, Homer Glen, Illinois. Number 7, consider for approval ordinance number 22-001, an ordinance declaring surplus property and authorizing its sale. And number 8, we're going to put off until we get down to that part. So that's it. You want to call the roll?
Is there a motion to discuss?
So move. I'll second that motion.
Okay. Now you want to call the roll?
There's no discussion?
We're not supposed to have
that's right. I'm
discussion on
sorry.
the consent agenda.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
No.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
And Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, legislation and action items. Consider for approval ordinance number 22022, a request for site plan approval for the proposed site and building improvements to the Homer Township Public Library for certain real property located in the P1 Governmental Buildings and Public Schools Zoning District at 14320 West 151st Street, Homer Glen, Illinois.
I will make that motion.
I will second.
I do want to say the reason I took this out of the consent agenda because the cost involved with it and us being in a little bit of a pinch here.
Wait.
Wait, this is,
Sorry?
Yeah, so let me
we're
just
on the library.
George, you read legislation action item number number
that
1.
we said we were going to move that one to the top of
Right.
legislation and action items.
You are correct. That's what you did state. So George had read legislation item 1, but Trustee Fialko had asked when amended to the agenda that his number 8 be moved before H1.
Well, the 8 under, all right, legislation and action items right now is, all right, so we'll do the number 8 now. All right. Consider for approval an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Homer Glen and Will County regarding certain improvements as part of the county's upcoming 143rd Street and Bell Road Intersection Improvement Project. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Now is there discussion?
All right, I'd like to just say the reason I removed that from the consent agenda was the cost involved with this and the other many costs that this village faces right now at this moment. And I wanted the other trustees to, we covered this in, I guess I should back up just a little bit. We covered this in A&F. And the consensus was that it is necessary, but I wanted all the trustees that are here to be able to have input to this and not just throw it in the consent agenda for over $500,000 of a function to be paid for. So if there's any other input from the other trustees, it comes down to actually putting sidewalks in at 143rd and Bell, in addition to the Will County project that's out there. I know we do need sidewalks. So I know that this is very expensive at this time. So I'd like to open it up to the other trustees if they've got any other comments. I didn't want to leave them out of the process by putting it into the consent agenda.
I actually like the fact that, you know, sidewalks kind of connect everybody. It connects all the subdivisions. I know that through a lot of our trails, sidewalks that are in front of other businesses along any of the main corridors, 159th, 143rd, Bell Road. I think it's a good start. Anybody could just walk to any of the businesses, and I think it's actually a spectacular idea. And for us to continue it forward, especially on a newer construction project that's coming up, I think is a great idea.
I'd also like to add to what Ruben said, this is an accessibility concern as well, and sidewalks are a necessity for accessibility.
Anything else?
I actually think it's safer because in the summertime, you see that the young kids are around there. I'm sorry. In the summertime, the young kids, my business is right there. So I see all the kids coming from Home Depot, Meyer, going across Bell, going over to Menards, going to Jewel. So I think the sidewalks would be much safer and it would just create more walkability for the village.
I'd also like to add that because of the pandemic, I think we all saw the growing need in the community where people were enjoying the trails, enjoying the walks. It definitely is not stopped. I only see an increasing demand, especially with all the people that are moving to Homer Glen. So I think it's a practical approach to put in more sidewalks.
And Mike, would you like to add anything to that, sir?
Just a couple quick things. Obviously, it is a larger cost, but it is actually a cost savings to add this to the county's project because we're not going to be paying for erosion control, traffic control, restoration, things of that nature. So there's inherent cost savings for us to put this into their project rather than us doing it at a later date. It would actually cost us more money. So.
And last, it's safer. The kids got nowhere to go. I mean, they're either walking in the grass or they're walking on the street, and 143rd Street's not a slow street.
Yeah.
So, Beth, you got anything?
No, I mean, we've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
This has been in the works for years. It's part of the whole works things that we've done, so I definitely don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Any other conversation on it? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
And Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Okay. Next one then, consider for approval ordinance number 22002, a request for site plan approval for the proposed site and building improvements to the Homer Township Public Library for certain real property located in the P1 government buildings and public school zoning district at 14320 West 151st Street, Homer Glen, Illinois. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Pasmino, Trustee Renders.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question.
It's green.
Oh, sorry, I'm on now? Okay. So is there a sidewalk that currently, right now I'm trying to picture it, I can't. Is there a sidewalk that connects that entire strip from 151st, like let's say from the Village Hall all the way through to the township?
Yes, there is a sidewalk in front of the library currently that opens up into
Because
the
there was made
heritage
mention
strip.
of another sidewalk for walkability. Where's that one going to?
This one, if you look at the top right of this rendering here, there's a little path that's north of the library that would open up into the park.
So it's kind of inside the other sidewalk?
It's on the northeast side of the building.
Gotcha.
If you look at the picture right here, it's on the top right. The sidewalk that comes off the building, and then it's going to go across their drive aisle, and then across our property.
Gotcha, okay.
Over into our parking lot.
Couldn't picture it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Cancelino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
And Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, consider a motion to authorize village staff to backfill a vacant foreman position in the Parks and Recreation Department.
So moved.
Rogers. Renders. Discussion.
In the A&F meeting, it was made clear that this is a position that is absolutely needed. This is something that we take very seriously, especially now with the freeze and everything that's going on with the budget. We just want to make sure that, this is a position that's not unnecessary, obviously. It's a position that's a hands-on position. It's a boots-on-the-ground position with the foreman. So that's why that's pretty much why I went through A&F as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the position did open because there was a member of the Parks Department that went to the public road, so.
What I'd like to add to that is, this is a good example of the last meeting, we put hiring and raises on hold for 6 months. But in that ordinance, we also left the provision open where something comes to us like this, that we can still make that happen. It wasn't to hurt anybody or anything like that. And this is a good example of that. John presented his case to us in A&F. We thought that that was absolutely necessary for him to have the guy that he was missing that went to Public Works. And this is a good sign of the process working. And so that is what I wanted to add to the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Cancelino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye, sorry, I was on mute.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
And Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3, consider for approval the budget of the 2022 Homer Community Festival for the total amount of $187,525.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion?
If I could speak first on that, I would appreciate it. As the chair of the fest, if you read into this packet for H3, you can see that the Homer Fest is making money. For 2021, it brought in $223,419. The way the SOP is set up, from what I remember reading last, there's $60,000 that is kept in that fund, but when the fest makes its money, it then goes into the general fund, and then we have to ask for it again every year. So as far as the money that the fest made for 2021, it superseded the amount that we're asking for, and I think that this year we should be able to do exactly the same thing, and probably supersede the amount of money that we're asking for, and it ends up being kind of like an even exchange for every fest, where it makes the money, it goes back into the fund, we ask for it again, and I think it's good that it works that way. It keeps everything in check. We come up with the budget, We talked about the budget at the FES meeting, and that's the number we came up with. And actually, it's not asking for too much more than was asked for in 2021. That was $186,800. This year, we were asking for that was $186,800. We're now asking for $187,525, which really doesn't even take into consideration really inflation right now and all the things that are going on with cost increases. So that is how it went at the FES committee. And everybody voted on that at the committee, and it was a unanimous vote to ask this to go to the board.
I think it's reasonable, since it's less than $1,000 difference than what we did for last year.
Well, you also got to remember, last year was the 20th anniversary, so they definitely went big.
Yeah.
You know, they had the planes come in, they had some great bands out there. I don't know. It's just because it got in a little bit more money than what it did last year. Doesn't mean, do you have any cost analysis on what the festival, what the tents are going to be, what the bands are going to be, what the money's going to be for the fireworks?
That's all listed in that second page, George.
And I would say the figure that comes in for anniversary items, if there is any inflation or if there is any splurges as far as cost raises, that would pretty much cover it. Now, I have all the faith in the world that Trustee Fialco, Chairman Fialco, because he's chairman of the committee, will make sure that we get to bare bones as far as cost, and we'll make sure we have, quality across the board.
One more thing to add to that, though, just because you ask for a certain amount of money doesn't mean like other businesses where you have to spend all that money. And that's exactly what happened with this past year, that all that money wasn't spent. So the thing is to have a budget that you can work within and to not go over that budget, but to actually try and be as conservative as you can with the things that are going on. If you notice in here, I mean, fireworks alone are between the sound for fireworks and fireworks for $48,000, it comes to $52,000 for 1 hour of entertainment. The fireworks are not cheap. On the other hand, we have to have bands for 4 different nights to support all the people that are there, and the stage, and the sound, and the tent. And there's much less being spent on that than there even is for fireworks. So the idea, again, is not to go up to what you ask to be the budget. It's to have a budget that you can work within and be as conservative as you possibly can with your numbers in the budget that you've asked for. Thank you.
Does anybody know the number or a roundabout number of what we spent on the anniversary items last year?
Yeah, it's 14,000.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
I'm just curious why you didn't vote for this. You just abstained.
You weren't at that meeting, but to answer your question, I will.
It's in the minutes.
The minutes haven't come out yet. Nevertheless, what I will say is the reason I did not vote during that time, it's just like here, George doesn't vote on anything. I have not, in the FES committee, I have not voted on anything, the minutes or otherwise. And I had this conversation with Sue today. The record shows that I have not voted for anything because I am the chair. I leave it up to the committee to vote on certain things that we're going to vote on, and that is their job. You know, that is to answer. Does that answer your question?
Sure does.
Actually, I have a question, Mayor, Trustee. So are you asking that we lower the budget?
No, I just asked why he didn't vote for it.
Well, do you think that we should have this number of the budget that's proposed here? Does this look good to you, or maybe you have another recommendation?
No.
We want to make sure you guys have input.
No, and I agree, but what concerns me right now, I haven't had one contract but before me to sign to get this thing rolling, and we're halfway through January. Usually by this time of year, I'm signing all kinds of papers to make sure that this is going into effect.
This is happening in the summer. If it helps you guys feel any better, we could table it, and then we could all look at it. That way, everybody has input, and we all have our hands on it.
I don't have a
Would you
problem.
wanna do that?
I have no problem with the budget.
You want to do that? I mean, you have no problem with the budget passing it now, or would you like to table it so that we can all have our input?
If you want my vote is yes. I have
Okay.
no problem with
Perfect,
the
sir.
budget.
I don't have a problem with it. I
Okay,
just want to
so-
make sure that you guys understand, this is the first year you're doing the festival.
Doesn't look like we've changed any numbers, but go ahead.
All right, but you still haven't gotten contracts for anybody yet. So
Fair
we
enough, sir.
don't, so we don't know what the cost
Fair
is
enough,
going
sir.
to be.
So would you like to table it?
Let me finish it.
Sure.
Why would I table it?
I'm just saying, I want to make sure everybody has their hands on it so that nobody says they didn't have input.
I've got my hand.
Well, okay.
Ben has his hand up.
Go
I
ahead,
just want to
Dan.
make sure I'm not stumbling over everybody. What I will say is we do have a contract with the carnival. There is a contract that's good till 2023. You do have a contract there. It's $1 and a handshake from the way I read it. You put it together a year or two ago. We do have a contract with the fireworks. There are some issues, just like with everything else, that people are either providing a service of some kind and or selling something. So when it comes to that, all those are in the process. Being that we have new people that have come on board and we also have people that have left, of course there's going to, and there we had, there was one of the meetings where somebody was sick, that being myself, that I wasn't there. So we've had a few bumps in the road as far as, you know, the fest meetings themselves, and the new people that are on board have got new assignments. So I'm sure you'll be getting them shortly, what you're looking for. I mean, if that was a concern, if you could have called me to let me know that, I would have appreciated it. If that was a true concern of yours for the process.
Well,
So my phone's wide open. If you ever want to call me about those issues, please feel free to do so.
I don't want to step on your toes. You've got a very good group of people there that have been doing this for a long time. But you got to understand, if there's no contract on it and we don't have the money to pay for it, we still get stuck paying for it. So you need to figure out who we're going to have, at least in the next couple of months.
Way before that.
Okay.
I have my hand up. Obviously, you can't see me. No, I'm just kidding. Dan, I just want to actually thank you for keeping the Special Needs Day in the FEST agenda and for the budget that you're allowing for it. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to making a really great day for our Special Needs community members.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping, Trustee Laha, you will be part of that process when it takes place. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments on Homer Festival? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Cancelino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fielko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
And Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, consider for approval Rustic Vintages Fair proposed to provide 3 craft fairs at Heritage Park in 2022.
Mayor, I'd like to talk a little bit about this.
Okay.
And actually, we do have Gina from the Rustic Vintage Fair here.
Excuse me,
Gina?
Trustee Reinders, can we get a motion first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So move.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. So excited.
Excited. I know. I'm so excited about these craft fairs. Gina, can you come to the podium, please? Gina is the owner of the Rustic Vintage Fair, and she actually came to me and asked me if the park would consider doing any of the craft fairs. And I brought it to our committee, and there was only one problem. At that time, she thought the fair was going to be so big that we would not be able to accommodate them in the parking lot, the west parking lot of the on the side of the village. So basically, we brought that to committee. Committee was concerned. John Robinson voiced his opinion and said that it would be very, very difficult to close off the road. So she is actually going to cut down the size of the fair, and we are going to put it in the parking lot on the west side of the Village Hall. So everybody was unanimously for the craft fairs being in the park. They thought it would be a great addition to the community events. So therefore, we wanted to bring it to the board to make sure that the board knew that we were going to be moving it to the parking lot and not obstructing any use of the park. So that's the history.
Are there any other questions or concerns about the rustic craft fairs?
I think it's a great idea. I think we should do more events like this. I know from the input I've had from residents, we need more activities like this because it just brings the community together, just kind of breaks up the monotony a little, and I think, thank you, Trustee, for bringing that in.
And they will be actually paying us per booth, so the village will make money off of this. And Gina, maybe if you could tell us a little bit about what you're going to be providing, so that there's not going to be any we're not going to be using our staff to fully staff this.
No, it'll be my staff. I'm going to hire sheriffs to deal with traffic control, which I do at all my events. I will bring in porta potties, anything that's needed. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for her?
We're really excited.
I just want to make sure, I think it was a concern of a few people, the dates that you guys have it, that it doesn't kind of step on or over or into anything else that would be planned, that would be special events at the park. I just want to make sure that you're checking on that to make sure your dates
We did
match
work,
with the
yeah,
others.
we did work those out with Sue. Sue, myself, and Amy, we worked out the dates, and the dates are all fine.
Okay.
As far as the garbage, though, I don't know how that would work for you, but usually here at the village and with the company that we use, the garbage cans, I don't know if this would work for this event, but we found out with the fest, they provided us with all kinds of garbage cans with the liners for free. Now, I don't know if it applies because this is kind of a business that's running this out of the park, right?
And at the end of the day, if I have to bring dumpsters in and then have them taken away, that's fine.
I'm just trying to find the easiest way for you and for something we may have already that could be utilized. You might want to look into that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I don't know if it would apply to this situation or not, but I know that it's available for the village, like for the fest.
Okay.
So,
Dan, we can call and see what Frank says. They might donate. I can't say yes or no, but we can call them and ask. That way there's no cost.
As far as garbage, it's pretty wrappers and it's very minute, correct?
Yeah, because the vendors are told they have to take all their stuff with them if they have trash, so that hasn't been a problem in the past.
Right.
I don't even fill up one, like, dumpster at Francis Field for 200 crafters, so I don't see it being a problem.
Thank you.
I think the porta potties and the washing stations fall into that same category, if I'm not mistaken, through that business. But again, you'll have to check with the authorities here. I think Sue would be able to find out for you how that would work or not work.
Well, let's get a number of what they're looking for, then I'll call Frank up and see what he says.
Gina, don't you provide the porta potties and things like that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, she provides pretty much everything, garbage cans, all of that.
Yeah.
And all of her vendors, she charges them if they do not clean up after themselves. That was one of the things.
Yeah, they won't be asked back
Yeah.
either. I mean, I have 14 events this
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Okay.
big following.
Just out of curiosity, what other communities do you guys operate in?
I'm working with Orland Park Civic Center right now. I have 6 shows there this year, 4 at New Lenox, Francis Field, the 3 here, and then 2 at the DuPage County Fairgrounds.
Wonderful.
That's yeah, very large.
It's your first time in Homer Glen.
The first time in Homer Glen.
Welcome.
And people are very excited about
Yeah,
Homer
let them
Glen.
know
That's
how
all
many
I keep
people, are
hearing.
calling you, that
Yeah.
want to participate.
Gina, how many years have you been doing it? Because it's been a few years, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No.
But it's growing quickly. I can't really go anywhere now. Everyone knows who I am.
No, thank you for coming to us. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Gina.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I ask a question, just for clarification? And I'm very excited for the craft fairs. I love those things, so this is nothing against it. I do remember there was a board meeting once upon a time, and maybe Janie, you can help clarify this, that I believe it was when we were discussing the disc golf. And I remember Trustee Suisse was here, and at the time, the board had decided that there was no non-for-profit events allowed in the park. I just want to make sure that if there's an ordinance out there that states that, because I remember Trustee Pasmino, we had discussed about having them put a deposit down, and the board decided not to allow.
Did you say
Remember
there
that?
was a non-for-profit not allowed or allowed?
That a for-profit was not allowed. Do you remember when we talked about disc golf, and I forgot the gentleman's name, Thor comes to mind, that he wanted to do a disc golf event. Are we violating any ordinance in that thing? I just want to make sure if it comes to the point that these events are going to happen, that we're not breaking our own rules.
Well, we're actually working on some proposals right now. Sue, Amy, and myself, and Nicole, we are putting something together to put some procedures together to bring before the board, because we are getting so much inquiries, it's so much inquisition about doing events in the park, and I think when they had this last, what was it, Sue, was it the school that had the last event in the park? And, they basically said they didn't need anything, but then at the end of the day, they needed us to provide a lot of things. But where Gina's concerned, she has a whole staff that does all of this. So, I mean, that's what Nicole, you can verify that we're working on putting some procedures together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely something that the Parks Committee has discussed, and I think we'll continue to discuss as the need for Heritage Park becomes greater.
Yeah, and I know they did do the disc golf, and they did charge, so that event did happen, but it is good, we should probably just review the ordinance and make sure it doesn't need to be tweaked or something.
Yeah, I'm all for what Rosie and Nicole are proposing, absolutely 100%. I just want to make sure that we're not violating our own codes.
Yep.
Just a quick question. So would we follow the same code that we would for the organization that provides the rides and amusements for Homerfest? They're a private entity. They do charge. So maybe we follow that same.
I think there's different, yeah.
We'll look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into it.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
I suggest possibly we just approve it subject to review of the ordinances, and then if there is a problem, we'll point that out for the next meeting, if that works for everybody.
That works for me.
For me too.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Approve subject to the ordinance review. Does that sound good? Okay. Okay, Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
And Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next would be consider a motion to approve the use of portion of Heritage Park property for 4 soccer fields and 2 practice fields and 2 game fields.
So move.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Wait, what?
That was, it's Ruben and it's
Ruben and
Nikki.
Laha? Okay.
Okay.
Discussion?
Yeah, I would like to start this discussion. Mr. Knack and Mr. Jones came to the Parks Committee and pointed out that according to our Village of Homer Glen's Park Master Plan, the village currently does not meet the plan's recommendation for soccer service needs in the community, which basically states 1 soccer field for every 5,000 residents. I really would like to help them out as much as we can as far as maybe finding a temporary solution to their issue until we can find a more permanent solution for them. And I have asked Mr. Knack and Mr. Jones to attend tonight to present basically the same presentation that they did for the Parks Committee.
Okay.
Ross?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if they can hear me.
All right. Is there any other questions or concerns? You guys okay with me
talking for a few minutes here?
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, my foot fell asleep when I was sitting there.
Can you just double check that your microphone's on, please?
Check, check.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Okay, I'm Russ Knack. As many of you know, I'm on the Parks and Recreation Committee, and we're kind of excited at the opportunity we have before us regarding soccer. we have a major hole in terms of meeting demand for soccer in Homer Glen. As Trustee Laha alluded to, we have a certain service level that we're expecting for the village based on our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And when we developed that plan, I think it was 2005, we did a benchmarking analysis and compared Homer Glen to other communities, similar communities, to decide what our level of service needed to be for all the active sports, all sports and activities and recreational activities, including all the fields. And soccer was 1 field per 5,000 residents. That's a recommendation. It's not a hard, fast number. The level of service we have now, I was going to print a map out and have it distributed, but I don't need to, because the level of service we have now is 0. We have 0 soccer fields in the village, 0 usable fields. The plan mentions a couple schools in the village. I think that's really outdated, and maybe it was an optimistic view back in 2005 when it was put in there. One school has nothing. The other one has no really usable field, and it's a moot point because neither of those two are open to the public. There was I made a few notes here, so I don't want to get too far off. If we look at this in terms of supply and demand, soccer, as a lot of people know, is a very popular sport today. It's one of the most popular sports in the U.S. The demand is growing significantly. When I was a kid, there was, it was kind of unheard of. It was a very rare thing, as some of you probably remember from a long time ago. It's a different story now, and Homer Glen is no exception. We used to have, the high schools have multiple teams, boys teams, girls teams, so there's a whole infrastructure all the way up through high school. We used to have the Homer Soccer Club, which, although it was not in Homer Glen, it was just outside the village. They played at Morris Park. They served hundreds of our residents. All 3 of my kids came up through that program. That's how I met Steve years ago. A few years ago, they decided to pick up and move away. They moved about 2 miles east. They're not even in our service area anymore, not even for the southwest portion of Homer Glen. That park is now, I know this past fall it was used for football. It's not being used for soccer. I think it's going to the village, to the Lockport Park District. They have plenty of soccer fields. They have a massive complex of soccer fields. In any case, it's not in the village. We have no control over it. So we have 0 level of service for soccer fields. We have 0 level of service for soccer organizations for one of the most popular sports in the country. That's really a problem, and it really should be recognized as such. Just looking at some of my notes here. So what are we talking about proposing? We need 2 pieces of this equation. We need the fields, and we need an organization. In terms of fields, we have Heritage Park. Portion of that park, when we developed that, when we planned that park, there was a portion that was sort of earmarked for active recreation. It is graded flat, and really it's perfect. It's got drainage, it's got parking, there's outhouses right there. It's really a perfect place to have soccer fields. It's part of the area that's on the map that shows the fields there. So we have the space available. It's not being used. It's the infrastructure's in place. That solves that half of the equation. There's no grading required, no capital improvements required, no site work to be done. Really all that needs to be done is striping for the fields and goals. And we're not talking about providing goals, so that's not even on the table. We're just talking about the space. The striping, it's a low-risk plan. The striping can be gone in days. Just wait for the grass to grow, cut it, and the striping's gone. The soccer goals can be removed. This can be reversed in a matter of days as if it never existed, if it turns out to not work or there's other plans that come up. So the land use part of it seems like a solved problem. As far as the organization, that's typically is not such an easy thing. You don't just have organizations wandering around looking for places to set up. In this case, we kind of do. Steve Jones, as I mentioned, he was a coach for many years with the Homer Soccer Club. When they left town, he decided to start slowly building his own organization. He's to the point now where I think he has something like 140 kids, and he's constantly trying to find places to practice and play. This is a good fit to solve our problem as far as structure and organization for a league. He's got a group of coaches that work with him. These coaches are some of the best coaches you will find anywhere in the area, not only for recreational soccer, which is what's being proposed, but also for travel soccer. Some of these are semi-pro players. They're doing it for the love of the game. They're doing it to help the kids. It's an incredible opportunity. Steve plays semi-professional soccer in England. He's got, many years of coaching experience. It checks all the boxes that the questions you would ask of an organization that needs to sort of take hold and begin operating in your village. So these are the two halves of two pieces of the equation. The Parks and Recreation Committee was strongly in support of this idea. Let's do it. Let's meet this need and start growing something in the village. Steve, we've talked about this, and I've further iterated with him that, things go on at the park here. There's special events. We've got some great things planned. I'm glad to see we have a craft fair coming, a new one. Steve's more than willing to work around those things and not schedule games or practices when there would be conflicts. He's is demonstrated that he's very willing to do what needs to be done to work with the village. I don't think there's any issues there. I visited all of the township parks as part of this acquisition process, just as a Parks Committee member. Every last one of them. And every last one of them has a bunch of drainage land and retention land that at first glance looks perfect for fields and parks, but really it's not. There's almost no options when it comes to some of those parks. We do have Stonebridge Park has some buildable land, I say buildable, high and dry land that would be good for a field, perhaps one field. But what Steve is trying to do now is to create an organization for kids from 4 to 13. As you can imagine, the little tots play on very small fields. There's different field requirements for different age groups. That's why there's multiple fields being proposed here. So it's not feasible to have older kids play in a tiny field and vice versa. It also isn't really feasible when you're trying to start up an organization like this to be spread out at multiple locations. Heritage Park presents a perfect opportunity to get everything in one place, grow the organization, get it established and running smoothly, and then perhaps grow into different locations as they become available. So I kind of hit on some of the important points, that come up and questions that come up for this issue. I just think we're really fortunate at this time in the history of the village to have these two pieces of the puzzle, which in a lot of places, even one of those two would be very difficult to put in place, but we have them both. So I really hope you take this seriously and consider this opportunity. Steve is here. If you have any questions about his half of the equation, we're here to answer questions.
I walked away briefly, so I don't know if I missed the part. The little bit that I did catch is that as far as the setup for these soccer fields, they're very minimal, right? It's just lines that are washed away by the rain, and then you just keep putting them on. Is this an expense that's incurred by the actual leagues, or is this something that you need subsidized by the village, or?
This has come up in the committee, in the Parks Committee, and Steve takes care of all of that.
My aim is to, the reason why I set this organisation up was when Homer Soccer left, I was actually coaching 3 teams at the time, and at the will of some of the parents, I started coaching you know, creating teams for these groups that kind of wanted me to do that. Me and my wife do this. We do it. We take money to cover cost of shirts. We're actually practicing at MPX in Homer as well as at Nazarene, so we cover costs for shirts as well as field rental, and whatever money we have left, we usually put it into trophies or prizes for participation. So our aim is, you know, there's some organizations that pay up to $3,000 per child to play a sport that I grew up and paid £5 to play it. It's, you know, it's a sport that's played in 190 countries, and like Russell said, everyone should be playing this sport. It's a perfect sport to get children to help them work on themselves. It's a team building sport, you know.
Steve, how many days of the week will you be using the fields?
It depends. Like I say, I'll work around with Amy and yourself to...
But what's the normal? What's the normal?
At the moment, I coach 3 nights a week, and I also coach games on Saturdays and Sundays. Okay. So I get 2 days off at the moment. It depends. I mean, like I say, it depends on, you know, and at the moment we don't advertise. This is mostly word of mouth, you know.
And would all 4 fields be going at the same time?
Yeah, yeah. So with that being said, you know, we can have it so the practice sessions are all at the same time over a couple of days, just to try and, you know, relieve pressure on the fields as well. So wear and tear on the field is, you know, over time.
Sir, may I address the podium?
Yeah, go ahead.
Insurance. How is the insurance covered for the soccer events? Because these are a lot of kids in one spot.
Yeah.
It isn't like playing in the park kind of thing. So, and you're an organized, you are organizing this to have kids compete, right?
Right.
So as far as the insurance coverage, how?
Yeah, we usually handle the insurance on this as well. So.
And you're providing proof of that insurance before you get started,
proof
right?
of that. Whatever Amy requests or whatever the township requests, we'll...
All right, and as far as that goes, I see that there's 2 different sizes of the soccer fields.
Right.
Is one of those regulation and one is not?
The U11 field is regulational. It's just a little under regulation size. Yeah, they're all to scale. So the U11, I think U9 and U7 field are on that, and then there's a practice field as well.
I think soccer is a very important part of growing up for kids. We lived in Beverly, and that was the first thing they got the kids started with was soccer, and it has always worked out good. It's character building. It's a team. They learn how to play as a team, and I think it's a very valuable part of a child's development and growing up. Any type of sport is. But the other thing I'm looking at there is the parking. And I remember being involved, you know, going to all the soccer games, and everybody, you know, shows up on Saturday morning, and I mean, a lot of people come out for that. And having 2 fields and 2 games and 2 opposing teams, and the parking situation we have right now is kind of minimal for the events that we have. You looking at the parking and the way it's set up now, do you think from your past experience you would be able to accommodate with the parking we have available if you had 2 games going at one time?
100%. I think we looked with John, and the parking is perfect. So for the games, we would stagger the games. For the games, typically parents would hang around. For practice sessions, a lot of people will drop their kids and run. So there's not, so on the younger groups, the 5 to 7 year olds, parents do stay around, but we could stagger the games throughout the day just to make sure that traffic is kind of moving. And
the last question I would have is, with the special events that are held here and the games you may be having, have you checked with Sue Stalin to make sure that that would not be interfering with anything that she would have coordinated at that time, and that you would have an agreement that if there was a special event, you would not be able to use that field at that time?
100%. Yeah. So, like I say, I'm willing to work around, you know, whatever's needed to be done to kind of facilitate this, so.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem, thank you.
Are kids from the residents, you know, from Homer Glen, they able to use them too?
Yeah,
If they're not on the teams?
One thing that kind of breaks my heart is soccer fields that are left unused. So if there's goals up and the fields are lined and no one's there, you know, there's no organised games or organised practice going on, the fields are there for everyone to use. You know, I was lucky enough to play the game. It's been a huge part of my life. Like you say, it now gives me the ability to help kids work on themselves and for all the other reasons. So, you know, my aim is to get everyone in the local area as well as surrounding areas to see Homer as a great place to bring your kids to play an amazing sport. So, and it's, you know, like I say, it's where I come from, it's one of the most affordable sports. And, you know, because it's kind of up and coming sport in the US, organizations do take advantage of that. So that's, you know, kind of the, you know, I want to try and break that.
Well, that's good. I think that you also have an opportunity being able to pick up another kid that's amazing at what they can do. They just never did it before.
Right, 100%, 100%.
Yes.
Oh, I
100%. You know, my life, you know, outside of soccer as well, my life is dedicated to helping kids all around the world. I teach them to work on themselves, become role models, especially to themselves first. So, you know, I work in the mental health arena, special needs arena. So, you know, this is for everyone. There's no discrimination or whatever. This is. Yeah, right, so I also coached AYSO, and I did have a couple of kids on my team that were special needs as well. So, you know, I treat everyone as equal, so, you know.
Russ, I have a question for you. Were you able to go and look at any of the newly acquired township parks at all, or no?
Yes, I've been to every single one.
Any of them? Not one.
Sadly, no. As I mentioned, you know, when you drive by in your car, you think, oh, wow, look at all that space. And then you get out and walk, and then you're kind of like sloshing through the field. It's all retention, almost all of it.
Even the location behind Lamers Park? Because there's the pond area, but then there's a whole area behind that seems to be very large.
I seem to remember slope being an issue at Lamers. I'm not saying that this couldn't be done with some work, maybe some grading.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, for future, I mean, like, if we're looking at temporary solution for now, but I'm also thinking about permanent solution in the future, because I see our Heritage Park is changing and evolving. So, and I think everybody probably sees it evolving a little bit more down the line. So I'm trying to think of maybe we should be taking a second look. Also, Trustee Pasmino, what is our agreement, like maintenance-wise, with HAC and visitors?
HAC, from what I recall, they will be maintaining their piece that they occupy only. So that would be anything with the football and anything with the baseball.
So, because Trustee Rogers has brought up in the past the concern about, you know, the parents coming, there's garbage. Whose onus then is it to clean? You guys would be responsible for pickup and maintaining. That's kind of where I'm going informally.
Can you just clarify for me, because I just want to, because on here it says lines and goals will be provided by the user. So the user is our community, right? The whole community gets to use it?
I don't know where you're reading that, but I'm sure that that's pointing toward Steve and his organization.
Okay, so the goals will always be up there. So when you're not using it, our community gets to use it, correct?
Right.
Okay.
I have goals. I have proper goals for it. I've just basically been collecting them and storing them. So yeah, I've got goals that can go up.
Okay, and then my other question was, what if we started with a half? What if we started with two? You know, a half and one, and see how this goes? Because if I'm hearing you properly, you're kind of saying you're going to be out here 5 days a week. and that's a lot. And so I was just wondering, could we start like this year, go a half a quart in one and see how it goes, and make sure the garbage is being picked up, because the garbage gets picked up, but then we still have to take it away, right? I mean, it gets put into the cans and the cans overflow, and I'm just concerned. I'd like to kind of baby step it a little bit more than this, because what you're saying is scaring me a little bit. You're out here 5 days a week, and it sounds like there's a lot of people. And that's great, because they'll use the park, and they'll use the hills, and they'll use that stuff. So you're saying you have three practice 3 days a week? And
I think it's typically, I don't think the 5 days is right. I think it's 2 practices and a game, typically.
Yeah, the games are, like I say, Saturdays and Sundays, so, or depending on whichever one we're
And so you're gonna be out here. How long are your practices for?
An hour and a half. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, we kind of put the kids through their paces, so, you know, an hour and a half is usually pretty good for them. So, and like I say, in my experience up until this point, you know, I look after the land. I make sure that it is as good as it was when I got there, when I leave. So,
and the goals stay there, right? Just because the way I'm reading it seems like they don't.
If that's an issue, you know, I've got portable goals, so we can use portable ones, but...
No, I want them to stay there, because when you're not using it, the rest of the community should be able to use it. It's the community park. So no, I wanted them to be there, and if they needed to be moved, But, you know, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the you know, trying it for the first year, just that one.
I can comment on that just because that has come up, that question has come up, I believe, in the committee, and I've talked with Steve about that. And number one, he has an age range currently that in his organization from 4 to 13. So he has that all, you know, those kids are ready to play, and they have to play somewhere. Otherwise, if you were to cut down the fields and not have the proper fields for every age group, he would sort of have to delete that part of his organization. And I'm sure once those goals are up there and people come by and they say, what's this? There will be others that very quickly inquire about this. And I'm sure he'll maybe put a few signs up there. So I think that you will very quickly have enough of a critical mass of kids for every age group. And if you don't have the fields, then you're sort of deleting that portion. It's kind of hard to do, I think.
And also as well, if there is 2 fields with the kids that I have at the moment, that's double the amount of wear and tear on those 2 fields, so we would have to leave those fields to kind of recuperate as well. So, and like Russell said, at the moment with no advertisement, I have an age range from 4 years old to 13, so it would be nice to be able to have them know which specific field they were practicing on, and what specific fields they were playing on as well.
I have 2 questions, if I could, please. Yeah. One, your season is typically between when and when?
April through to September.
April to September. So typically, football ends and soccer begins?
Right.
For the most part, right?
Right.
In any other communities, have you utilized or shared a football field, since your striping is temporary, where have you ever used a football field at all?
Yep.
And the only reason I bring that up is because now we have access to one. Obviously, we would have to work that out, but I think there's other options here possibly besides just the park. And you're saying that you have done that before, shared a football field with the striping and having your games on a football field with the soccer?
Yeah, I've used many different fields, from Hassett Park to Morris Park, as well as I at the moment utilize Nazarene, the Church of Nazarene in Lamont.
Okay.
So
I'm kind of thinking, agreeing with Trustee Rogers, that maybe moving in a slower fashion for this park, and our parking not being exactly abundant or perfect yet, then maybe that might be an option with the football field that's over here, if you wanted to move that fast. But I think moving at a slower pace for the community to see how it works out makes sense. I mean, you still have other parks that you can use, right?
Right.
So this, by doing that, wouldn't hurt your organization at all. This is adding to your organization from what you do already, right?
I wanted, maybe I'll answer the first part of that as far as using the football fields. I don't really know that, number one, I don't know that the Homer Stallions would be very amenable to that idea. It's been proposed before, and you know, I think that intense use of that field would probably do a lot of damage to it. You know, to have two organizations using it.
Well, you said the football season ends and soccer begins. That's why I asked.
Well, I think football is starting in the summer. My son used to play with the Stallions for a couple of years, and there definitely are several months at least of overlap. Okay. So I don't know.
Something that could be worked on, though, or looked at, or the question could be asked. I mean, I'm just throwing another idea out there that you might be able to work with.
And the other thing is to have the multiple age groups in one location. Oftentimes, families have multiple kids playing multiple age levels together. You'll have a 4-year-old playing and then an older brother or sister playing. And, you know, to have those kids all in one spot as opposed to having them at 2 different locations makes it a lot easier on the parents as well. So, and I just want to reiterate that because a lot of these questions have come up in the Parks Committee. This isn't a contract. If this doesn't work out, you know, in the interest of the village, it can end pretty much overnight, or it can change overnight. So we're not talking about we're signing a contract for a year with Steve's organization. So it's very flexible. Like I said, a field can be gone in a matter of, completely erased in a matter of days. So again, low risk.
I'm sorry. I was just going to finish up with this. I mean, there is Frisbee golf that's out there that is used by a lot of people here, and I don't know if you've looked at that interruption, how you would affect that game.
Yes.
That's already set up out there, but maybe something to talk about.
We have, yes, we have.
You have, okay.
You consider that, John. In fact, John Robinson.
And those aren't special events. Those are people, you know, residents using that park for that facility.
Yes.
That would be there, and I just don't know how that would work with you guys and how that may or may not interfere.
We've worked with village staff to avoid conflicts with the Frisbee golf course.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one piece that I was going to ask about. Excuse me. So it seems like this whole piece here that you want to put everything in with the 4 fields, if you ask me, I think we should do the complete opposite. I think we should go all out. Since it's only a little bit of chalk and a few field goals, you're willing to let all the residents use whatever is not removable, right? Whatever you can't store. You are basically getting all of these kids out of their houses and, you know, stopping from gaining weight and playing video games. You're getting them out to do what they should be doing, playing sports and working off that energy. You're also saying that you may even come up with a special needs program for these kids. I think this is a win-win. I think we should go with the 4 fields and do the opposite. In the event something goes awry or it doesn't work out, then we take off 2. Because again, it's just temporary chalk and a couple holes, which is the opposite of what this golf was, which to me was way more expensive to remove. I think this is a win-win, if you ask me.
I have a quick question, and this might be more for staff or possibly the attorneys. I love the idea that we can open this up to the community, but what is the liability with that? So if something were to happen, Matt, please elaborate, because this makes me a little nervous with that.
I would definitely check if the equipment's provided by someone else. We'd want to make sure that it was properly inspected and run it by our insurance providers. I don't think it would be much of a problem, but we would definitely check that before. Okay. And I think a lot of these questions, we would work out a user agreement with the group, similar to what we're doing with HAC and the Stallions about the practice times and the events, that should address a lot of those issues. So we still have a lot of those details worked out, but we wanted to make sure that there was support for using this portion of the park for that at this time.
Okay, thank you. Nicole,
Yep, I'm here.
do you have anything you want to add or ask?
No, but I do want to confirm that John Robinson did confirm that this does not interfere with the golf, Frisbee golf. And I do, just want to reiterate that I really would like to see soccer in Homer Glen, and I do think it's an important sport as well. I love the idea of special needs, so I just really, I thank you all for your great questions and giving them your time.
There's one more thing that I wanted to add, if I may. There used to, like you'd mentioned before, there used to be a program in Homer Township, right? Mm-hmm. Back in the day, and it was on Homer Township property. Unfortunately, they were asked to leave, and that was a huge amount of people and children and families that were involved in that. I think this would be a way to bring those people back into the village.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do is serve our residents instead of having to force them to go far away.
Well, as the chair of the Parks Committee, I have to agree with Beth on this one. I think we should do one field and one practice field for just to start out with and then see where it goes. I mean, my concern is that you have both of these fields filled with kids, filled with families, and they're going to be running across the street into the park. And to me, it's more of a safety issue because my kids played soccer. I know I was there, my husband was there, my mother was there, my father was there, and this is all bringing all these people into this area, and the kids just run all over. And my concern is safety with them running across the street to the active core, to that section of the park, if the park is so overcrowded. That's the only thing I'm worried about. I think it's a great thing for the neighborhood, for the park, for the kids, but my concern is safety.
I'm in agreement with you guys on that because I think this is uncharted territory. I'm excited to do this and open up to this, but I think like we said, go a little slower, and figure this out. And especially because these are like the busiest months for Heritage Park that we're looking at, guys. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer up here, but I'm just trying to look at the bigger picture. So maybe if we approach this, cautiously optimistic for the first season, if we're going to do this, work out an agreement. And then I said, double check on liability issues, double check on maybe if there is another area that we could permanently look at for setting this up. But yeah, I would have to second with both of you that I think maybe one is better for now.
Nicole, you and I had some discussions about it. Do you want to chime in here?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
You and I had some discussions on the 4 versus 2. Did you want to chime in here?
Yeah, absolutely. I would rather see 2 happen than none at all. I 100% agree with everything Ruben is saying, though. I do have to be honest. I think parks are made to be used by our community members and played in and ran in. This park is designed for many more things than what it already has. And I think this is a step in the direction of using Heritage Park for what it's actually meant to be used for. So I would like to see the plan completely put into play, but I just don't want nothing at all to happen. So I would like to see something happen here tonight for this organization and for the soccer players that definitely deserve to have somewhere to play here in Homer Glen.
Is this an all or none option? I didn't read it as such.
No.
No, I don't think it's all or nothing. But if that's the case, then maybe we would need to amend it or do what we need to do. But I would definitely like to see something happen here with this.
Right, for Russell and for Steve, we're correct with saying that, right?
Well,
it's not an all or none option.
At some point, it does become all or nothing. I think because Steve has an existing organization with a significant number of kids ranging from ages 4 to 13. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think one field would serve even that existing group of kids, not to mention the ones that would very quickly join when they discover that there's soccer now in Homer Glen. So, exactly how many fields does he need, I don't know, but I trust his judgment when he sat down and said, well, this is what we need to do. So, you know, again, I think that the risk here is, as I mentioned, there's two pieces to this equation, the land and the organization. I mean, we have the land, clearly, we have the acreage, it exists anyways. The organization, if this doesn't work out, what are we going to do? Are we going to start building our own soccer club from scratch? I don't think so. That's not an easy thing to do. And there are not soccer organizations that are just floating around looking for a place to call home. So I'm afraid if we do lose this opportunity, it's going to be lost for a very long time. We don't have a park district. We don't have the resources to develop our own league. I will say, in the past, two or three, at least two of my kids have played in Steve's organizations at places like Hassard Park and Morris Park and some of the other places around. And the issues with garbage and with kids and safety and with parking, they just don't exist. They don't materialize. You're not getting hundreds of cars. These aren't tournaments. This is a recreational league. It's not a travel league. So if, for whatever it's worth, I can tell you firsthand that I think a lot of these fears will turn out not to materialize.
I have one more thing to say, guys. So, from what I see here, these 4 courts or fields are in the middle of a huge piece of land. And from what I've heard here on the dais is that the biggest concern is safety about kids running across the street back and forth. That's going to happen no matter what, with a soccer field or without, with a ninja course or with the herb garden. They're going to run across the street no matter what. Okay. Now, from what I see, again, I'm with the mentality of thinking I'd rather have 2 than none, right? So, is this something that we're going to amend here now and do, or how is that going to work? Or is it going to be a vote either way?
Well, Trustee Pasmino, you made the motion and Trustee Laha had made the second. So if you want to amend it, now would be the time to amend it.
Okay. So before I even go there, because I really don't want to shoot this down because I think it would be a huge disservice to our children, should we amend the motion then, since it looks like none of you guys are going to vote for the 4 fields?
No, wait.
Who?
The 4 fields should be put out there. You've got young kids, you've got older kids, and you don't want the young kids playing with the older kids because that's where they're going to get hurt. As for the fields that are in there, if you don't transfer the fields back and forth, they do get ripped up and it takes a hell of a long time to get it back to normal. So this is the first time you're going to be putting it out here, so it's a baby step thing. I would go with all 4 of them. Let the kids play in the fields that are good for them because they couldn't run one of them.
Can I propose something? I don't want to speak for Steve, but I'm fairly certain he'll agree to this. If you vote for the plan as presented, I'm pretty sure Steve would agree that at a moment's notice, if you feel that traffic or garbage or safety, any of these issues are significant, then at your discretion, you can reduce the number of fields to address the issue at hand.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would too.
Good to me.
Okay, so if there's
Wonderful.
If there's nothing else, let's call the roll.
Wait a minute. Trustee Pasmino.
Aye.
Trustee Fialco.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
And Trustee Laha.
Aye.
Motion carries. You got it.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Consider an ordinance 22003, an ordinance amending section 83-46 of the Village of Homer Glen Code of Ordinances regarding licensing and regulating video gaming within the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois.
So move.
Trustee
Second.
Pasmino and Reinders. Is there any discussion?
Sir, in retrospect to this initial ordinance that we did receive feedback from many local businesses, and a lot of businesses, in looking at it, that they got a point. They were afraid that this would create a loophole allowing businesses similar to gaming parlors into our community. There is a moratorium on gaming parlors, and we surely don't want to create any loopholes for such. So we went ahead and reversed this, and we'd wish to amend this to reestablish the 1,500 square foot minimum for gaming.
All right, is it going to be walled off, or is it going to be an open situation?
It's going to go back to the way it was as far as the 1,500 square feet.
How it always is. How it is right now, currently. I think they're just trying to tie the shoelaces.
Right.
It's just the size, right?
So nothing's changed. Again, they're just trying to kind of tie up what they did at the last meeting.
All right. But you still have to have a liquor license to pour.
That's correct.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
Nicole?
I knew you were going to say that. No, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Would you like me to call the roll?
Well, no.
Okay.
No. I still, this thing with this, before I sign my name on the liquor license to get them to do it, I want to see exactly how it's set up. It's different right now. It's not in a standalone restaurant or a restaurant that's attached to somebody else. I went in there and looked at it in the first place, and I told them up front, you're not getting a liquor license because, or a gaming license, because at the time, that was strictly drawn up for the restaurants. They were having a lot of problems trying to make ends meet. So, all right, so the gas station came in, and I did tell him 2 times. The first time he came in the building, the second time. He has to put a building up to be able to accommodate the gaming. If he does that, there's no issue whatsoever, because every one of the other restaurants that are in this village had to jump through every single solitary hoop that we had, and they all did it, and it cost them a lot of money. I think that this one here, before we approve it, I want to see the building built out the way it is, and he's got a liquor license, because all he has right now is package.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, because I'd gone to the restroom. Could I have a moment to discuss?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Rose, you did a lot of homework on this. Would you like to present some of the numbers that you found?
Well, yes. I actually went to the state of Illinois, to the Illinois Gaming Board, and I actually pulled the numbers for Homer Glen, Lamont, New Lenox, and Lockport. And Lenny's Food and Fuel in Lamont, or I'm sorry, in New Lenox, they actually, the amount that is wagered is $24 million is what goes through that facility. $24 million is what is played at that, and I did the numbers from January of 2021 to December of 2021. The portion of that goes to the municipality is almost $100,000. So I would think that we would do whatever we have to accommodate this. I know he's got to build out a space, but if you look at the numbers, Homer Glen, we currently take in $270,000 a year. That's our share in gaming. Lamont takes in $339,000. Lockport takes in $280,000, and New Lenox takes in $381,000. That's revenue that we could really use here. So with that, I mean, I think, it's not against the state statutes for them to have. There are truck stops all over the state of Illinois that do have gaming in them. So.
One thing that I wanted to add, Trustee, you finished?
I'm done.
This will not be interrupting any of the restaurants or lounges in the area. Lenny's, as everybody well knows, it's on 159th and Gauger, very far away from a lot of the restaurants in the area. And from what I understand, there's another similar type business going to open across the street in Lockport. So what we took care of was the fact that we released the hands of a Homer Glen business, and we are allowing them now to compete with another business across the street that's going to be allowed to not only have any liquor they want, but gaming. So that was the main reason that we went ahead and untied the hands of a Homer Glen business. And I just want to make that perfectly clear. Now, another reason that we did this amendment today was because we did receive feedback from a business that, yeah, they had a reason to be upset. And they caught a glitch that we missed, and we're fixing it. So I see this as a win-win. At the end of the day, we are here to support our businesses. A gamer that's going to play a game is not going to be limited to Homer Glen. He's going to go to Lamont, he's going to go to Lockport, he's going to go to Orland. There is no loyalty. They're going to go wherever they think they're going to be lucky. So for once, let's help out our businesses. Let's have them compete with surrounding communities. That's the name of the game. That's all I have to say.
And I agree with Trustee Pazmino. The idea is to not raise taxes in the village and to find other ways, to roll up your sleeves and look at other ways to bring in money, and a pass-through tax like that comes through gaming that's in the southwest quadrant of Homer Glen is not going to hurt anybody, in my view. It helps out the community. Not only does it help out the business, and I agree with you 100%, Trustee Pazmino, it's helping the business, but it's also helping the community without really affecting too many things that are already going on. So I see it as a win-win situation also for the community and for the business, and that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to say...
This amendment that we are looking at right here answers one of the questions I had actually 2 weeks ago. You know, the requirements for establishments to qualify. So this clears up a lot of questions that I had, as well as Rose, what you said today is really intriguing to me. And you know, along with what Dan and Ruben said, you know, we're trying not to raise taxes here, and this is definitely an intriguing option. That's all I have to say right now.
Well, I don't have a problem with it if he gets closed off, we take a look at it and see how it fits. Because otherwise, I'm not going to sign a liquor license for him unless you guys plan on taking that away from me too.
I would like to say one more thing. Every establishment in Homer Glen that has gaming is required to have a sealed off area. Nobody's asking for him to be the exception.
Carrie?
If I just may address the board, Mayor. The ordinance before you simply restores the 1,500 square foot requirement. You've already approved the issuance of a license to a truck stop, and one of the other amendments you made at the last meeting in December, I believe it was December 20th or 22nd, I can't remember the date, you allowed for an appeal process, and if I'm not mistaken, the license is actually, the application is actually presented to the clerk, and if I'm not mistaken, the manager signs off on it. So if there's a request by a licensee or an individual who has applied for a license and it is denied, you do now as a board have the right to review it and address the request at that point in time. So, but again, back to the original ordinance before you tonight, it's simply to restore the minimum 1,500 square foot requirement.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So until then, to me, it's tabled until I see what they're going to do on the inside for the square footage.
If I may, as a point of discussion at this point, the motion has been made, the second has been made, there's been discussion on the ordinance. A motion to table at this point is out of order.
I don't know that I agree with that, but I also don't know that the mayor's going to.
And aside from that, Mayor, you do not have the authority to make a motion to table.
Has everybody spoken? I'd like for the clerk to call the roll, please.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
No.
Trustee Cancelino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
No.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
And I want my no on there.
Does the motion pass?
Yeah, yes,
So,
the mayor would say yes, the motion carries.
4 to 2, right?
4 to 2.
oh, they won everything. So. Okay, motion requiring board approval for expenditure of American Recovery Fund X Fund.
So move.
Well, second.
Wait a minute, what? That was Beth?
This is something that we do every year. John, is John here still? John Robbins here? He left? This is something we do every year because it's almost like a housekeeping type of thing. We go through, look at equipment, look at assets that are no longer being used or functionally obsolescent, and they go to like a pool that the company then sells it and sells it
Rogers.
for us, and our money comes back in.
This is
Trustee, you're on the wrong one. You're on.
H7, not,
Oh, let me put my glasses on.
We're on H7.
It happens.
you're like a G7.
Expenditure of American Recovery.
Oh, sorry. Is there any discussion? Would you like me to call the roll?
I didn't know if anyone had anything to say on it, but seeing I don't hear anything.
I do. Yes, I do. If we are talking about H7, just so we get back on track here,
It's
right?
Yes.
The motion is for H7, right? Okay. So we're talking about the American Rescue Plan Act, which is money that comes from the government. We talked about this in A&F. Now, there is a proposed thing to put in a sewer system down Cedar Road and on 159th Street. I did have an idea as to how to use this money, maybe besides that way. And I know when we put in a sewer, we then control and own that sewer. But the thing is, we've got the Illinois American Water, we've got a lawsuit with them right now, right? They're in the valuation phase. So right now, when that is settled, it is going to go out to bonds, and correct me if I'm wrong, it'll be put to bonds, and then the village will have to pay for that through those bonds. My idea was to possibly use that money to paying down the bonds, so the bonds don't have to be so high, and we can get our water situation straightened out a little bit faster. Is it the cure-all? No, because we don't own distribution, and we don't own transmission. We will own then. We won't own distribution and then the services. So still, there are two parts of that we will not own. But to me, having the ability or the flexibility, there's limitations to this, and it's for the money that you can spend. And the eligible uses include responding to public health crises, replacing revenue reductions tied to the pandemic, and to make infrastructure investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. It's under the background information paragraph 2. So having the ability for this board to approve how those expenditures are made, I think is detrimental to our survival. Not to our survival necessarily, but to the process and making sure that it's spent in the correct places. And that would be all I would have to say.
All right, let me correct a couple things.
Go ahead.
First of all, we already ran the water and sewer down 159th Street. Sewer went to Bonnie Bray and Lockport. It is ours until we get paid restitution for them using it. Until then, we don't get a penny. At the end of it, it goes to them. Then they own it. After we paid for it, but we got our money back. As for the suit that we have right now, we're going to have a lot more information after next week because we're sitting down with the new board of Illinois American Water to see what they're going to do. And It should hopefully go to court, I sure hope this year, but it doesn't mean any difference.
The only thing I'd like to say in addition to that, I was not talking about Bonnie Bray and what you had just brought up. The conversation came from Mike Salamovich in Cedar Road and 159th Street, and what would be put in there. It's not in yet. And that was talked about using that money towards that. And I'm saying, yes, that's an option, but we also have other options, and to give the board the flexibility to decide where that money may be spent. I'm not saying we have to spend it on paying down bonds once the valuation comes through. I'm saying giving that flexibility to the board, I think, is a very important part of the process.
I'm sorry, I have a question. I don't mean to interrupt. Sir, did you have something?
Go
Okay. This particular point, 7, it just has to deal with approval by the board. Isn't the rest secondary? So we're just looking for a yay or nay on this, right? 7?
Right.
All right? Okay.
Yes, and to the reasons why.
Okay. No, I was just, I don't want to get confused.
Why don't you wait until we can do it right now for the motion, but let me get to this meeting on Monday. So, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll about...
Trustee Reinders? Sorry, George, didn't mean to cut you off.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
And Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, consider a motion to approve retaining the law firm Odelson, Stirk, Murphy, Fraser, and McGrath to represent the village in negotiations for a collective bargaining agreement with the International Union Operating Engineers Local 150, IUOE Local 150, representing employees in the village department.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I have a question. Carrie, you've dealt with Local 150 before, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. This is the reason why this was suggested is because, yeah, and that he has dealt with Local 150 as well as you've worked on how many union cases, would you say? Or agreements, bargaining?
150?
Well, I mean in general.
How long have I been doing this?
Yeah.
Since 1986.
Okay. So this is a reason why some board members have recommended. It's not for any other purpose, but that he has had a lot of experience both with this Local 150 and for the past how many years?
Well, you feel comfortable dealing with 150? Because I don't even know if everything's settled in here yet with the union coming in. And what?
Is that a question?
Yes,
Do I feel comfortable dealing with them?
yes.
Well,
If I can ask you just to talk into your microphone, I'm so sorry.
I'm comfortable dealing with any union as long as we can sit down at the table and bargain with one another in good faith. I've had a very successful relationship with Local 150 in 2 municipalities that I've dealt with them. Most recently in the village of the village of the city of Countryside, and then also in the city of Calumet City. We worked through a number of issues, and in Calumet City, I think the relationship was in excess of 18 years, and in Countryside, the relationship was approximately 8 years. And so, yes, I'm comfortable that they will deal in good faith. I've dealt with the attorney that represents 150. We were able to work out a contract during the height of the COVID-19 issues in 2020 without ever having to have a person-to-person meeting. So yes, I'm very comfortable working with them.
Okay.
You know, I'd just like to add, our firm is not doing collective bargaining work now. We work on implementation of the contracts after they're negotiated, but we are not doing this at this time.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
And Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next is workshop. We have a subdivision review concept for ILM home development at 14500 West 159th Street.
Mr. Mayor, trustees, good evening. Thank you for allowing me for the second time to come in front of you to discuss this development. And I want to thank staff also that they helped to put this meeting together. Tonight, I want to explain the differences between the site plan that we presented in September of last year and the one you have in front of you tonight. After that, I will...
Sir, may I address the board here for 1 second before you go too far? Being that we're going into a workshop and it's going to be some time, could we take a 5-minute break before the workshop starts?
Sure.
Please.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I meant to say that before you got started.
Perfectly all right.
But these workshops go on for a long time sometimes, so I want to
Okay,
make sure.
we'll
we
take a
can catch
5-minute
little
break. They're still too close to each other. They're on top.